Okay, brothers and sisters, let's go ahead and practice using functions. I've got the chapter 9 on functions pulled up here, and we'll go ahead and attempt to do this program. So as you can see here, this program shows us, the description shows us, a triangular prism, right? So a prism is a triangle with depth, basically. And we are going to write a program that will calculate the area of a prism. You can see here that the assignment is prompting us to do 3 different functions, right? So the very first one is do input output, the next one is prism volume, and then triangle area. And we've got some pretty good descriptions of what we need to do here, so let's just go ahead and dive in. I'm going to start here by doing the third function, triangle area. Okay, the third function is given to us here in the reading. Okay, so I'm actually going to just take this function, copy, and paste into our program. It's not cheating because it told us to do that. All right, so we've copied and pasted this third function. The second one is prism volume. Okay, so we need to build a function. Remember that functions always have a couple parts. They always use the function keyword. It has to be spelled exactly so. You'll notice here that if I misspell it, I don't get the syntax highlighting in Notepad++, and the same is true in Visual Studio Code. So function keyword, and then we need to give it a name. This function, this program says it needs to be called prism volume. Okay, and it takes in 4 parameters, A, B, C, and length. Right, and these parameter names come to us from this little diagram here, right, where A is a side, B is a side, C is a side, and length is a side. Okay, so very first we need to get the triangle area. Okay, we've done this part, takes in 4 parameters, then we need to call the triangle area function. Let's do that, and this function is going to return a variable, so we need to store that return, and we'll just call this volume. We'll call this area, and we call a function by referring to it by name, and then for every parameter that this function requires, we supply what's called an argument. And these ones just happen to be named the same. But really, we could name them whatever we want. Okay? So that was step B. Calls the triangle area function, and then we need to compute the volume of a prism. That computation is very simple. Its volume is equal to triangle area times length. So area comes to us within the function because of this function call. Length comes to us because it was passed into the function. Okay, and then finally, we need to return volume. Okay, so those were the last 2 functions. Now the do input output function, let's go ahead and do that. Remember, we need the function keyword. We want to call it do input output. It takes in no parameters, as you can see here in this requirement, so we just have an open-close parenthesis. Okay, and it's going to be called from a buttons on-click attribute, so let's build that button. And we will say that the button text is compute. Okay, it's going to get 4 new numbers from the user. So this is very vague, right? We could get 4 numbers from the user in a lot of different ways. We could get it from an HTML document. That makes sense because we already have a button that's being clicked, or we could get them from prompts. I'm going to choose to do them from an HTML document. So let's do this. Say side 1, and then we will add an input. Copy that. Okay. So let's go ahead and now make sure we get these in as numbers. A little typo there by not including the txt. Okay, so we've taken no parameters. We've set up the onClick. We've gotten the 4 numbers from the user, and then we need to call the prism volume function, and then we need to display the result to the user. Okay, hopefully this is it for our program. Let's go 10, 10, 10, and a length of 5. Okay, let's see how we accomplish that. And actually, let's check. Oh. .216.50, 216.51, so this rounded up, so we're good. Let's step through this now. So what happens here? If I were to pull up the sources in Google Chrome Developer Tools, we would see here our 3 functions. So I'm going to start at the topmost function, do input output. This will get called when the button is clicked. So we've been doing this all semester. We say on click of a button, call a function, right? So here we go. So this happens, boom, 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 and then this is where we need step into or step out of, right? Because all semester long we've been doing step over. Now we need to step into. So you can see I'm going to jump from line 15 down to line 21. There you go. And Google Chrome Developer Tools is cool because it tells me all the values or arguments that have been passed in to fill the parameters. Okay, we'll step in again and we'll jump from line 21 down to line 27. There you go. We will do the calculation. We have the area, then we'll multiply the area times the length and return the volume. And then we will output that number to the user. Done. Okay, well that was a program with functions. Once again, we had 3 functions. Do input output, calculate prism volume, calculate triangle area. Okay, and we could have broken this up into even more functions. Maybe something like get input from user that takes in a single parameter, right, like an input name, and then parses it to a number. That way we would just call a function 4 times rather than having 4 nearly duplicate lines of code. Okay, well I hope this practice was beneficial.